we're going to move over to the women's national team. U.S. soccer played 2 friendlies this week. Tucked in jersey, Sam Coffey scored in the second game. That was why I got there. But she's famous for her tucked in jersey. These 2 games were a night and day difference from one another. One was a loss, one was a win, and honestly, 2 completely different rosters from game 1 to game 2. What did you think of watching? I know you didn't have a chance to watch the first one, but you watched the second one. What were your thoughts on it as you were watching it?
Yeah, the game that I watched yesterday, it felt like more bouncy, I guess is the word that I would say. It felt like there was a lot of short passes. There was some strategery to get you out on the break a little bit more, which we saw a couple of times. I think we saw different players than we're used to seeing, right? Mm-hmm. Younger players, names that you've been calling for, like Olivia Moultrie, my Portland Thorn player. We saw Jaedyn Shaw get minutes as well. So I think it was very clear that Emma Hayes said, listen, what did not work for us, I'm not going to continue. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and thinking you're going to get a different result. She said, we're playing the same team. Let's try something completely new. Put the kids in, different rotations, different starters, almost all starters different. And it felt like they were in a lot more control of the game and were able to score right away.
Yeah, and I think that, so game 1 was kind of like the old guard, right? Like she started Lindsey Heaps, she started Rose Lavelle, she started, there's not really much of an old guard these days, but Emily Sonnet, Emily Fox, there was a little bit more of that, who we're kind of more used to seeing play together. Actually, in fact, before the game even started, Sam said to me, who do you think the 11 will be? And I named him out, and I think I got 1 wrong for that whole roster lineup. The second one, Emma said, all right, that didn't work. There was only 3 players that started both games. She completely replaced the other ones and changed out the entire midfield, which was absolutely necessary because the midfield in the game 1 was awful. The midfield has been the Achilles heel of the national team for, I would say, probably the last few years at the very least. It's been rough ever since kind of Julie Ertz, Rose Lavelle, Lindsey Heaps went out of their prime. It just went down. I have been saying forever, I want to see Olivia Moultrie get called up and put her in the midfield and see what she can do. She has not been called up nearly as much as I thought she would. They brought her up for this camp and they started her in game 2. She had a goal in the first 45 seconds. She had a brace in the first 10 minutes of the game. And all I said was, this is what I've been saying. Put Olivia Moultrie in, give her a chance, let her develop with the team and see what happens. Because Lindsey Heaps she's too old. She's washed. I don't want to say she's washed.
She's washed.
I want to say she's washed because I feel bad saying that.
Well,
but I think we need to move on from Lindsey Heaps.
If it wasn't Lindsey Heaps and it was some other player that you didn't know in a sport,
it's controversial.
This person is long. She's long in the tooth, and we need some fresh legs, some speed,
There's
youth.
There's been questions about Lindsey Horan, Heaps, in the midfield, probably since the last World Cup. I think after the last World Cup, a lot of people started going, I think it's time to move on from her in the midfield. But she's the captain. She's there. She doesn't go away. She's there every game. Can't really get rid of her.
Steady.
But it's steady.
Reliable.
But I think now you have a player... Because I think there's always been this who, if not Lindsey, who is captain? Who is in the center of the midfield that is calling out directions? Who is the coach on the field? And I think it's Sam Coffey. I think that Sam Coffey has the ability to lead this team in the way that Lindsey Heaps did. And I think you surround her with some of these younger players like Lily Johannes, like Olivia Moultrie, like
Lily
Claire
Johannes'
Hutton.
name was mentioned a lot during that broadcast. She was everywhere.
Yeah, she is. The average age of the roster yesterday was 23. The average age of the midfield, I think, was 20. Like, they had such a young team out there, which really shows the difference, because the game before, it was probably like the average age was probably like 30 in that game. You know, it's a night and day difference. And I think that they looked so much more put together in that second game than they did in the first game. So I'd love to see Olivia Moultrie starting over Lindsey Heaps in the midfield with Sam Coffey and Rose Lavelle and I don't know who else, Lily Johannes maybe. But I'd love to see that midfield and see how that gels over what we've been getting, which is a mess and sloppy and passes going everywhere and just a mess.
I have a question. How much do friendlies matter?
Like in what? Like they matter in a couple ways.
How do they? So like, I guess when you say, because it sounds like you want more clarification on what I'm asking. Yes.
Yeah. Like, do you mean like how much do they matter like on a national stage, or how much do they matter to the team?
I mean, like if I see a team like the U.S. women's national team play in friendlies where they look sloppy and messy, do I then think that we're in trouble? And does that actually mean that our team is in trouble? Or has that shown to just be these are exhibition games where we're trying things out and it doesn't matter come World Cup or Olympics?
I'm going to tell you something about Emma Hayes. Emma Hayes doesn't want to lose. She doesn't want to lose a friendly to Costa Rica, and she doesn't want to lose a World Cup final to England. She does not want to lose. And she's going to play those games. Now, given the prep is going to be very different for a World Cup final, for an Olympic tournament. But for a She Believes or for a Copa America or whatever it is, you know, she's going to prepare differently. Sure, of course. She always will for a tournament. But Emma Hayes does not want to lose, because what happens when...
I get that.
But what I'm saying is when the United States loses to Portugal, and Portugal hasn't won a game since February and is ranked 30th in the world, the headline is not Portugal plays great against U.S. national team and wins. The headline is U.S. national team falls apart and allows Portugal to win. And so that image then comes back on Emma Hayes, comes back on the entire team. And I think it causes people to worry. So those teams, those games. Yeah, I think so, because I think we have seen, we have seen the world is catching up to women's soccer.